Hello and welcome to Return to Regalia, an Underland Chronicles reread podcast. I'm Una.
I'm John.
Today we'll be covering chapters 5 and 6 of The Marks of Secret, in which Hazard has a birthday party and Gregor and Luxa go on a secret mission. And we are actually celebrating several birthdays today.
Yes, indeed.
If this episode comes out on Monday like it's supposed to, we will not only be celebrating Hazard's birthday, but also John's.
Yes.
And Lola's.
And
if you're a Percy Jackson fan, Jason Grace's.
Yes. The Callens of July.
Exactly. Any birthday plans, John?
Movie night. That's mainly it for that night. We're going to go out to a nice restaurant, my fiance and I, but the restaurant we like is closed on Mondays.
Oh no!
So we're going out to Sunday before.
Okay, yeah, sweet. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the movie night.
Yes.
So yeah, happy birthday to Hazard, John, Lola, and Jason. And anyone else out there who happens to be born on July 1st. I don't know.
It's a very common birthday.
Yeah, I guess maybe.
A lot of July birthdays. Mm-hmm. I've known a lot of people with July birthdays.
Yeah, I have a ton of coworkers with July birthdays, and we're gonna have like a cake for all of them. So the break room is just gonna be stocked with cake for the next month. Yeah, so before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who reached out after my announcement last episode that the podcast will be releasing episodes a little sporadically this summer. In case you missed it, basically I've got a very busy summer ahead of me and I want to give myself some wiggle room in case episodes take longer than a week to get out. So thank you to everyone who offered their support. That means a lot to me. With that, shall we begin?
Yes, let's dive in.
Chapter 5 begins with the narration telling us that Gregor hasn't heard from Ripred, and he's starting to get worried. Vicus is also worried, but Gregor keeps his word to Ripred to not tell Vicus about the assassination plot. Vicus has enough to worry about already because Solovet's trial is soon. More people are dying from the plague, and everyone is starting to see that Neviv was just a scapegoat and Solovet is actually at fault.
Which is an apt description, I would say, of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I also like this is the point where Vicus stops being seen as like the Gandalf or Dumbledore or like even like Chiron, like the head trustworthy, wise leader and guide for Gregor. Like at this point, like Gregor's keeping things from him, and it's not like in other series where like that's seen as like a fault of Gregor. Like it's definitely the right decision on his part here because Vicus is not going to be. He would not help this situation that Ripred and the Bane and Gregor are facing.
Yeah, not only Ripred is asking Gregor to keep Vicus in the dark, but later in these two chapters, Luxa does the same thing. And it's just funny to me that everyone knows that Vicus is just going to narc to the council about them. So, yeah, I gotta keep Vicus out of it. But in happier news, Grace is getting better, and Lizzie writes letters from camp saying she's enjoying it.
Good for Lizzie.
Yeah, I'm happy for her.
Mm-hmm. It won't last.
Get it in while you can, Lizzie. Mm-hmm. One morning, Hazard invites Gregor and Boots to his birthday party. He's going to be 7. And I'm kind of waiting for like an explanation of how Hazard knows what day his birthday is. Because like, did he and Hamnet keep track of days in the jungle? Like, how would they know what day Hazard was born on?
Yeah. I'm also curious. This might be completely, like, not relevant to this, but when did the concept of, like, a birthday party become a thing? For whatever reason, that feels like it was a more modern invention. Like, not, like, modern, but, like, I feel like it could have been more recent than the early 1600s.
That is a good question. I feel like probably a lot of our modern day traditions are like more modern, but then like the concept of celebrating the day you were born is older. Let's Google it so that I won't have to Google it later and insert an audio clip. 3000 BCE.
Okay, well, never mind. I was wildly off. All right.
It says the first mentions of a birthday come from ancient Egypt, where large celebrations were put on for the pharaoh.
That makes sense. Like, so yeah, the celebrating of like the leader.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is probably like important people had birthdays and the peasants didn't care as much.
Okay, well, good to know.
Yeah. If you're a birthday historian, write in. I was also wondering if maybe it's possible that Luxa just asked Hazard like when his birthday is, and Hazard was like, I don't know, I've never had a birthday or something like that, and Luxa was like, well, pick a day, we're gonna throw a huge party.
That's what I did with one of my cats. he was a stray. And so we didn't know when he was born, so we just picked a day.
That's cute. Yeah, I celebrate Lola's birthday on the day that I got her. So
The gotcha day.
The gotcha day, yeah, exactly. Gregor asks what Hazard wants as a gift, and Luxa suggests something from the Overland. Gregor ends up getting him one of those See and Say animal toys that's like a circle with different animals around it, and when you pull a lever, it plays the animal sound. Did you ever have one of these as a kid?
Probably. I know exactly what it is. I don't remember having one specifically, but like I wouldn't doubt it.
I have a distinct memory of like only wanting to hear the horse sound.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I was a horse girl, so I didn't care about any of the other barnyard animals. I just wanted to hear the horse.
I was always a fan of wild animals, so
of course, yes.
Yeah, so there was no like a big cat pull the string wheel toy.
Yeah, we should invent that.
It probably does exist somewhere.
And I always thought that this was, like, the perfect gift for Hazard. The fact that Gregor came up with this and was like, Hazard would love this is so cute.
Yeah. He's really good with kids.
Yeah. Gregor also lets Boots pick something out at the toy store, and she gets herself a princess costume with a tiara and a light-up scepter, which is pretty iconic of her. She's so cute. Before they go to the party, Mrs. Cormacy gives Gregor a Polaroid camera and asks him to take pictures. The party is in the arena, and it's huge. There's food and musicians and a huge cake. Hazard loves Gregor's gift, and he's so fascinated by it that Luxa has to remind him he has other party guests. The crawlers attending the party are enamored by Boots and her princess getup. I love that crawlers were invited to Hazard's birthday.
Yes, maybe, social change.
Yeah, I'm assuming that doesn't happen often. Even Grace is in attendance, sitting bundled up in blankets near one table. Gregor takes a picture of Hazard and Talia, and all the Underlanders are amazed by the photograph. Gregor takes a group shot of a bunch of kids, and they treat it very seriously until he gets them to say cheese and makes them laugh.
Do they have cheese in the underworld?
Yes.
I guess they can get milk pretty easily from a lot of different creatures.
So. Cream sauce for shrimp, so I'm assuming that they have cheese.
Bats produce milk, so bat milk.
Bat milk?
They have bat milk, and then they can get cheese from that.
They definitely have, like, some kind of cow, though, I think, because they have, like, beef jerky type things. And they have, Luxa mentions having a pet lamb at one time,
That's
so.
Right. Yeah.
Sheep.
A lot of dairy can be gotten from that.
Bat milk is funny, though. Luxa announces that the dancing will begin, and Gregor sits it out because he's not much of a dancer.
I sympathize.
You're not much of a dancer?
I can't.
No?
No, I actually can't.
I love dancing so much.
The closest I got to dancing, really, was in 6th grade. We had, like, a graduation party, and there was a weird dance contest, and I placed on the podium for that.
For the weird dance?
By which I just danced weirdly.
That's cool. That's really iconic of you.
Yeah.
Everyone dances to an old nursery rhyme called Bat, Bat, Come Under My Hat. And did you know this rhyme before reading this book?
No. In fact, I thought this was made up by Suzanne Collins. This is a real nursery rhyme?
It is, yeah.
Oh.
And I had never heard of it before this book either. Apparently it's pretty old-fashioned. Mm-hmm. But Gregor recognizes it from Boots' nursery rhyme book, and his mom explains that it's hundreds of years old. I looked it up, and apparently this rhyme only dates back to the 19th century. So this isn't actually something that the first Regalians brought with them. They must have gotten it from, like, an overlander bringing it down or something. Mm-hmm. I wonder how Suzanne Collins chose this one, because there are nursery rhymes that date back to before Sandwich would have gotten to the Underland. Like, Three Blind Mice is apparently a song from the early 1600s.
Maybe this one's just more, like, thematically resonant with Regalia.
I was thinking about that too, like they just like the one about bats. After a few songs, Hazard comes over and asks why Gregor isn't dancing. Gregor says he doesn't know any dances, and Grace helpfully points out that he knows the hokey pokey. Gregor ends up getting dragged onto the field to teach 200 Underlanders the hokey pokey, which is just, like, nightmarish to me.
Gosh.
That would be so terrible. Luxa and Howard laugh at him because he's so embarrassed, and the narration says, the hokey pokey was doing nothing for his warrior image, which I just think is a funny sentence. Gregor escapes back to his chair and says, thanks a lot, Mom, and she just replies, my pleasure.
That's some peak mom behavior right
Yeah,
there.
to some extent, it's the mom's job to
Yes.
embarrass the kid. Next, the kids dance to a song that requires one person to be the queen, and Hazard picks Luxa. She spins in the middle of a ring of children, and the song goes like this. Dancing in the firelight, see the queen who conquers night. Gold flows from her, hot and bright. Father, mother, sister, brother, off they go, I do not know if we will see another. Catch the nibblers in a trap. Watch the nibblers spin and snap. Quiet while they take a nap. Father, mother, sister, brother, off they go, I do not know if we will see another. Now the guests are at our door, greet them as we have before. Some will slice and some will pour. Father, mother, sister, brother, off they go, I do not know if we will see another. This is the most chilling prophecy, I think.
Yeah. Given what we know is to come.
Yes, exactly.
I think this is why you've said this is your favorite book in the series.
Yes, it's an amazing plot twist at the end of this book. The characters decide that this song is actually a prophecy, and I can't wait to talk about the twist more when we actually get to it, but I actually remember being like so blown away by this twist. I think it's probably the best out of all of them. Like the Bane being a baby is pretty good, and the plague being created by the humans is pretty good, but I love this one because they put in 2 other rhymes. Like they have the bat, and then they have the song that Gregor and Luxa dance to in a little bit here. So this one about the nibblers, it's like inserted in between them, kind of hidden, like, oh, these are all just like the song lyrics. We're just putting all the song lyrics in the book. You don't have to pay attention to these. And then later it just comes back around. It's really clever. It's really well done. I am such a big fan of this prophecy.
It would be like in The Hobbit when the dwarves are singing the song at Bilbo's house. Like, it turned out that was the secret to defeating Smaug.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all along, it was right in front of you. Yeah. We'll move on for now. We can't get too much into the prophecy. So for now, we just think that it's a song about pretending to be mice and serving cake and pouring tea. Gregor thinks about how he doesn't understand it, but he figures a lot of old kids' songs in the Overland are confusing too. A little while later, Luxa comes over and tells Gregor that Hazard wants them to be partners for the next dance. First of all, Hazard is being such a little matchmaker here. Hazard is out here giving the people what they want.
He wants his sister to be happy.
And dance with Gregor. And Gregor, he wants Gregor to dance and everything. Oh, it's so cute. Gregor tries to say that he can't dance, but Luxa convinces him by saying the song lyrics will explain the steps, and it'll make Hazard sad if Gregor doesn't participate.
Just guilt that boy.
Exactly. Everyone forms a circle with their partners, and they start by bowing to each other. I'm not going to read the song lyrics because they ultimately don't matter to the plot unless someone has a conspiracy theory about how this song is also a prophecy, but the lyrics are very fun, and I actually used to memorize those song lyrics along with the prophecies when I was a kid.
That also makes complete sense.
The dance involves a bit where Gregor has to lift Luxa up and spin her around, and somewhere in the distance, Grace takes a photo of them dancing, which becomes plot relevant later, but it's not mentioned until the next book.
Lovebirds.
Yeah, so cute. I love this scene so much. It's just so close to my heart. When I think of the Underland Chronicles, each book has like a few really standout scenes that are just so essential to the Underland Chronicles for me, and this is Hazard's birthday party is definitely one of them. Like, it's one of my favorites in the whole series because it's like the happy before the storm.
Yeah.
Like, this is the last good thing that happens for a while.
So far, this is really the only book that's opened with that.
Right.
All of the other ones have been like downer starts from the get-go.
True.
And this one, like, you get lulled into a false sense of peace for a little bit.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, at this stage, I feel like in the last book, they were already on the quest, weren't they? Or, like, they had at least, like, set out a little bit. Something big had happened at this point. Like, either Gregor's mom had, either Grace had been infected, or he had definitely already seen Howard and Ares.
The first act of Curse of the Warmbloods ends with Grace getting bitten by the bug in the arena. But yeah, we had already seen how sick Ares was at that point.
Yeah. So for everything, like, besides Solivet being on trial and maybe trying to kill the Bane, which isn't, like, horrible,
right?
Really.
Rip Red's missing, but, like, we're not worried about him.
No, there's nothing... Things are pretty peachy in relative terms.
Mm-hmm. So by the end of the song, Gregor is actually having fun. And I'm just going to read the whole ending of this chapter because it's written just so fucking exquisitely. At this point, people stepped back from their partners for one final bow. As Gregor straightened up, he found himself looking into Luxa's violet eyes. Her cheeks were pink from the dancing. She was laughing, but not at him. "You did very well," she said. "Yeah, right," said Gregor. At that moment, two unexpected things happened. Gregor realized that he thought Luxa was pretty, and a gold crown dropped out of the air and landed on the ground squarely between them. I absolutely love this section. I love that the main plot just, like, interrupts Gregor right as he's having a romance subplot moment, and it just, like, totally shuts it down. Such a good chapter ending. Any thoughts about Gregor and Luxa's little moment that they shared?
No, I feel like it's fairly common in the YA, or, like, the books where it's, like, an adventure like this in a fantasy setting, and then the main character is coming of age, for, like, the romance to be very subtle. Mm-hmm. Like, it starts off like they're just very platonic, and then it kind of all of a sudden clicks, oh, wait, I actually like this person.
Yeah.
And it's always in, like, really innocuous and, like, the small moments ways. And this is, like, a great example of it. Like, there's nothing... It's not like he's realizing that he likes Luxa in, like, the heat of battle while one of their lives is hanging in the balance. No, they're just dancing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, man, she's pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, I also love the realization of, like, he realized that he thought that she was pretty. Like, he always thought that she was pretty. He just didn't realize that consciously until he, like, really looked at her. It's so fun.
I think it was a Percy Jackson tangent.
So. I was about to say, though, like, Percy Jackson does a similar thing.
Yes.
And Battle of the Labyrinth, the fourth book, is also when Percabeth starts getting real.
Really? For me, it's, I think, in Titan's Curse when it happens. Because she's gone and he, like, starts to realize.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite thing is towards the end of Titan's Curse, where he realizes he doesn't want Annabeth to join. Like, he's worried that Annabeth was going to join the Hunters.
Yes.
Which she was apparently thinking about, according to Talia, but then didn't. And he realizes he really doesn't want that because then they couldn't be together. Even though he doesn't, like, connect those dots in his mind.
Yeah.
That's, like, that's still very much it.
Yeah, and they dance at the beginning of that book, too.
They do.
They have a dance at the school that they're
yes.
heisting Bianca and Nico out of.
And I remember one of the other things about that part is he realizes uncomfortably that she's getting taller than him.
Yes, yeah. God, I have those books memorized nearly as much as I have Gregor memorized.
I do have those books memorized.
Yeah. All right, chapter 6. Gregor looks up and recognizes a messenger bat who tells Luxa that a nibbler at Queen's Head sent the crown and said she would know what it meant. Luxa makes a joke about forgetting where she left her crown, but she immediately picks it up and begins to leave. Gregor follows her and starts to ask if that's the crown Luxa gave to the mice in book 3, but Luxa cuts him off. She asks him not to mention the crown to anyone, especially Hazard and Nike, because they might remember the promise she made to the mice. Gregor doesn't see Nike around, but later we learn that she hears about the crown from Hermes, the messenger bat. I love that the messenger bat is named Hermes. It's like...
Yeah, we gotta keep the thematic connections.
Exactly. It's kind of, like, very on the nose. Luxa says she'll explain later why they have to keep the crown a secret, and she leaves on Aurora. The narration reminds us what Luxa said when she gave the mice her crown. Basically, if they're ever in trouble, they should send it back to her, and she'll come help. Gregor wonders why Luxa isn't alerting the guards about the potential danger, but she returns to the party soon and acts like nothing is wrong. Gregor spots Aurora and Ares exchanging information in secret. Grace tells Boots and Gregor that they can stay overnight in the Underland to have a special family dinner with Hazard tonight. Apparently this was suggested by Luxa. Luxa avoids Gregor for the rest of the party, and Ares also refuses to talk about the crown until after dinner when Hazard and Boots are asleep. Luxa says the Nibblers are in danger, and Gregor suggests telling Vicus. Luxa, Aurora, and Ares all say no in unison because Vicus would have to tell the council, and the council wouldn't send any help to the Nibblers based on just the crown as evidence. In fact, they would probably put Luxa under guard because they'd be afraid of her trying to go help the mice anyway. So the plan is for the four of them to sneak out to Queen's Head tonight and meet the mouse that sent Luxa's crown. That way, they can find out more and make a case to help the Nibblers. Gregor hesitates, knowing he'd get in trouble with his mom for sneaking out, but in the end, he decides he has to help his friends and bond. Gregor asks how they're going to get out of the palace without being seen, and Ares says, Henry knew a way. Aurora and I will meet you at the drop. I'm kind of still confused about how Ares and Aurora get out of the palace unseen, though.
Yeah, it's harder for them to be stealthy. Maybe they crawl across the top of the ceiling.
You'd think that if it's the middle of the night, someone would take note of the queen and the warriors' bonds flying off, if they were seen at all.
Is Ares still living in the palace? Right? He hasn't
Yeah.
gone back to his cave because he's still...
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. I guess, do the bats usually sleep in the palace, or do they have a separate quarters for themselves?
Aurora and Ares live with Hazard and Luxa in the royal chambers. Maybe it's not as weird for them to come and go, I don't know. But Luxa and Gregor get suited up for their secret mission, which involves dressing in dark clothes and stopping by the museum so Gregor can tape a flashlight to his arm, because he's been paranoid since his fight with Twirltongue. I also don't know how they got past the guards outside Luxa's royal chambers.
She would still have guards outside, even if, they didn't tell Vicus about this. She's still queen regent.
Earlier in this chapter, it mentions that they have to keep their voices down because the guards are, outside the chambers. So I don't know how they got past those guards.
Maybe Luxa just has a lot of experience slipping past them.
True. Just super stealthy. They rolled nat 20s on their stealth checks. Gregor and Luxa grab some swords from an armory and head to an old abandoned nursery. The narration describes it as spooky because apparently Sandwich spent time in here carving animals into the walls, and the torches make them look creepy.
Where else does Sandwich carve things into the walls?
Exactly. Things to be thinking about.
I also love that this is the first mission I can think of that doesn't have Boots with Gregor. It's a mission in quotes. It's a small mission. This isn't the main thing, but still... It's rare to see Gregor go off and do any adventures without his toddler sister.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. This is kind of like a little mini quest that Luxa and Gregor go on.
I'm imagining Boots seeing the poor Sivian.
Oh yeah, that would be terrible.
Would be tragic. They've already had the death talk a little bit though, I guess. But she still doesn't really understand it.
Yeah, and it happens later this book is when Boots really gets the full...
Yeah, because we had that with Tick earlier in the series, but she was even younger then.
Boots wasn't actually conscious when Tick died.
Yeah.
She was sick, and Gregor just said that Tick was sleeping, which is something...
The cop-out.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a second here. Luxa explains that Henry spent his childhood here in the nursery, and Gregor thinks maybe that's why he was so messed up, but doesn't say it aloud.
Shots fired.
Yeah, that's brutal. There's an angry-looking stone turtle against one wall, and Luxa explains that everyone except Henry was scared of it. One day, he worked up the courage to stick his hand in the turtle's mouth. Luxa does so now and twists something inside the statue. The turtle's shell pops open to reveal a narrow staircase. As they travel down the secret passage, Luxa makes Gregor carry his sword so it doesn't clank against the stone walls, because they're inside the palace walls and someone might hear them. I just love secret passages. If I ever become, unreasonably wealthy, I want to build a house that has just, a fuck ton of secret passages and stuff.
Dream houses are so fun. I should design a dream house like I did when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too.
It's so fun.
That was so fun when... As a kid, you would just, draw, everything you wanted.
You weren't hampered by the constraints of reality.
Yeah, literally. Where did that whimsy go? At the bottom of the stairs, Luxa opens another turtle statue to reveal a hole that leads outside the palace. Luxa steps through it, and Gregor hesitates to follow until he hears Ares tell him to drop. After he hops through and Ares catches him, the four begin their 1-hour flight to Queen's Head, which is a rock formation that looks like a head with a crown on it. Luxa recognizes the nibbler Sevian at the base of the rock and calls out to her as they land. At first, Gregor thinks Sevian is sleeping, but when he reaches her body, he realizes she's dead. The chapter ends with Gregor stopping Luxa before she can see for herself and telling her that Sevian is dead. I love how, at first, when Gregor thinks Sevian is sleeping, he thinks that's a dangerous place for a nap, because this is kind of like a reference to the prophecy, which talks about the nibblers taking a nap, but it really means that they're dead. Like, it's like a little mini hint about the meaning of the prophecy.
Quick question. I don't remember. I'm sure it was said at a previous point. How big are the nibblers? Because, like, the Nars are obviously, like, the rats are much larger than real-life rats. How big are the mice in comparison to the mice of the real world?
The Nars are supposed to be, like, 6 feet.
Yeah, the Nars are massive. And, like, the mice are obviously smaller.
Yeah, I'm guessing the mice are maybe, like, 5 feet? I don't know if it actually
they're still that big?
Yeah.
Interesting. I was thinking maybe they'd be like Chihuahua sized.
Oh, really? No.
Yeah, like they'd be bigger than mice, but they'd still be like small.
No, they're definitely still like
sizable.
Big.
Okay.
Yeah. The babies though, they get baby nibblers later and it's like a puppy size.
Okay, so babies are puppy size and then they grow a bit more. Okay, so they're still a good large mice size. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I just love how this series conflates sleep and death. It reminds me of that part in the Raven Cycle when Ronan says, non mortem somni fratrem, and Adam translates it as not death, but his brother sleep. And this is like the reverse of that. Non somnum mortis fratrem. And yes, I did look up the declensions and grammatical cases of those Latin words to make that translation.
You linguistic nerd. Of course you did.
You know, the Raven Cycle is the reason I took Latin in college.
I absolutely know. You've mentioned it plenty, yes.
But yeah, no, because, like, it comes up a lot, this idea that, like, everyone is, like, mistaking sleep for death. And, like, that's how Gregor explains to Boots about death, is that he just says that things are sleeping when they're dead.
Yeah, that's another, I feel like, a great example of, that wasn't planned, I can't imagine, by Suzanne Collins. Like, she had a great overarching scheme, I'd say, for the overall series and the trajectory the stories would take. But, like, it's not like she had everything planned out, I doubt. But that's just a great connection. Like, the thing with Boots thinking, okay, Tick is just sleeping, that was way back in book 1, with 3 books later. And, like, it's not like that was foreshadowing for this necessarily. It's just, it probably is coincidental, but it's a great way of her tying everything together.
Yeah, it strikes me as something like, just because I'm a writer and I know how this happens, like, you're writing and you like, it occurs to you that you can, like, bring back something that you have already written and you're like, oh, I have a theme here, I have a motif. And it strikes me as something like that. Like, yes. It didn't start out as her setting out to, like, make this thing about sleep and death, like, a recurring motif, but then when she realized she was doing it, she was like, oh, I'll lean into this. That's how it works for me when I write.
Happy little accidents.
Exactly. I just love these chapters because it goes so quick from, like, the joy of Hazard's birthday, and it's like the happiest that this series has been so far is, like, Gregor having fun and realizing Luxa is pretty, and it's just, like, so unexpectedly nice. And then
it changes at the drop of a crown.
Yeah, exactly. At the drop of a crown, it just takes this huge turn, and it's like, oh, there's a dead mouse. Oh, the mice are in trouble. There's a mystery around what has happened to the mice. And, like, Gregor and Luxa start fighting a lot in this book.
Also parallels to Percy Jackson.
Yes. Yeah, they're really so similar. Yeah, so everything kind of pivots and it's like you get whiplash from it. So yeah, I really love these chapters, especially Hazard's birthday party. It's just iconic to me. Any other chapter thoughts?
No, I'm just thinking ahead, and I can't wait till Lizzie comes into the picture again.
Yes,
because I love Lizzie.
Nate was also talking about that on the last episode of the episode before, that we just, like, can't wait for Lizzie to get in on this action.
So good.
Yeah, but we've got a long way to go before she makes it to the Underland. Well, thanks so much for joining me, John.
As always, thanks for having me on the special, especially on the birthday episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love how that worked out, that it was your birthday and Hazard's birthday. Next week's episode will cover chapters 7 and 8. Follow us on Tumblr, Instagram, and YouTube. at Return to Regalia, all one word, and subscribe to us wherever you're listening. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, fly you high.
Fly you high.